Hey guys, welcome to week one of our Cow and Koinonia small groups. We are so glad to be gathered together with all of you in your small groups on this Wednesday night. As we kick off the first teaching series of our year, we're going to be launching into a series that we are calling Solid Ground. Something that we want to name and talk about openly as we jump into this series is the reality, and this is not earth-shattering stuff, but the reality that 2020 has been hard, guys. This has been a hard year, and it's going to continue to be a hard year. A lot of us felt like the rug has been pulled out from underneath us. Our feet maybe have been washed out from underneath us, and we long for stability. We long for solid ground. We want to talk about, where do we find that? What does that look like for us? One of my earliest memories as a kid is I was in the pool in the house I grew up in California. I was 4, I think. I was just starting to learn to swim, and I was standing on the steps. I remember this pretty clearly. Normally I wore floaties and all that, but I was just on the steps, and so I didn't need them. And my parents were off talking to my siblings, but I was, I don't know, goofing around, and I fell off the steps. And I remember so clearly this moment where I fell into the water, and I was so little, even though I was in the shallow end. I looked up and the water was above my head, and I remember reaching and trying to break the surface, but I couldn't quite, and underneath me my feet were just kind of floating, and I was clawing, trying to get to the bottom, trying to find that solid ground. It was terrifying. It was this moment where I just couldn't find this stability underneath me. We don't realize how much we need solid ground until we don't have solid ground. I think to some of us, 2020 has kind of felt like that. The solid ground, the stability that we are used to having has been in some ways washed away. Now we're surviving, right? We're making it through. We're figuring out e-learning. We can't complain, we think, because we have homes and we're making it okay. But school is different, and sports are different, and significantly our relationships, the way we engage, is different, and it can feel, it's normal in seasons like this to feel like we're struggling to come to grips with how things are. It's normal in seasons like this to feel alone, to feel lonely. A couple weeks ago at our One Big Weekend, we challenged our community to write on little stickers some things that we felt we had lost, or things that we were anxious about moving forward, things that were hard that we were experiencing, that we needed to give to God. And there was a refrain as we went back and looked at those and prayed for you on those boards, a refrain that came up again and again that I really resonated with, because I feel this too. Is a lot of our students and our leaders too wrote some version of this question. People said, do my friends still like me? People expressed concern that their friendships had weakened, that they had lost the normal rhythm of friendships. People expressed concern that maybe, do my friends think I'm annoying because do I text them too much? Do I text them not enough? How is this working? We lose this normal feedback rhythm that we have relationally when we talk to people in person, and it's human, it's normal to be concerned that our friendships have been weakened in seasons like this. And I want just to say, that's hard. That's a hard thing. That's instability. It's normal to feel that way. It's human. You're not crazy. It's normal when the normal rhythms of our relationships are shaken or shifted. It's normal to feel uncomfortable or feel alone. And I wish I could just take it all away. Honestly, I wish I could just wave a wand or pray something and have it just all be gone for you. And I want to pause here and say, what you are doing now is a part of this. You're all sitting in small groups. You're sitting in a room or outside with a community of your peers, people who you can do life with. Let this be the start. Let this be a little start of returning to relational normalcy. Really go above and beyond. Be kind to each other. Show grace to each other as your group reforms, as you start to get to know each other again. That is huge. It's important. Stay with it. But I also want to say that at some level, it's just human. It is human to feel relational instability when stuff has changed like it has again and again and again over the last 6 months. That's just a human thing, and that's something that God knows. And I think that's a big reason why why Jesus in John chapter 15 says this. He's talking to his closest friends. He's talking to his disciples, and he says this, and by extension, he's talking to us. He says, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you." He's telling them, I love you. And he goes on, he says, now remain in my love. He's telling us, I know you feel adrift. I know you're going to feel like your feet have been washed around. He's saying, let his love be solid ground. And he goes on and he says this in verse 13. He says, greater love has no one than this. You just read this, so you're ready for this. He says, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for your friends. He says, and you are my friends. A lot of us, I think, feel like I did in that pool right now. Relationally, right? You feel like I did. You're grasping for the surface and you can't get there, and your feet below you feel like you don't have solid ground. What Jesus is saying here, he says, this is how much I love you. He's talking to you. He says, this is how much, this is the evidence. He says, the greatest example of love is to lay down one's life for someone else. And he says, and that's what I have done. You are my friends. He's saying when we feel like me in that pool, when we feel like we're drifting, he jumps into the pool. He jumps into the pool and he wraps his arms around us and he carries us to solid ground, the solid ground that is his love. He loves us. He tells us, you are my friends. When you feel alone, when you feel like you are drifting, he jumps in for you. And he grabs you and he takes you to solid ground. And then he goes on and he challenges us and he says, now my command is this, love each other as I have loved you. Jesus comes to us when we feel like we can't touch the bottom, and he brings us to solid ground. And then his challenge to us is, he says, in the same way, just like I have brought you to solid ground, once we have found stability in him, our call then is to lift our eyes up and to look outward and look at the people around us and say, all right, how can I do the same? How can I draw people into the love of Jesus? Will you pray with me? God, give us eyes to see the people in our communities who are hurting. Help us to know in this season of instability that you are our solid ground, that you are with us, that you are for us, that you love us so deeply, God. Help us to find our solid ground in you. And grant us courage as we reach out, as we jump in to love the people around us. In Jesus' mighty name we pray.